Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live. Let me tell you, the dopamine, it's flowing.
I am damn excited. Damn excited.
That's a terrible drum roll. Oh!
Boy, how you doing, man? Patrick.
Will Sterling.
Yeah.
Super Bowl champion, two-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score!
And we'll see you next week. But until then, as always, go Chiefs.
Welcome. This is Wacky Wednesday here on the Arrowhead Addict channel. I'm Adam Best. Glad to be back with my regular co-host, Sterling Holmes, for the first time in a long time. I had fun sparring with my old man for a couple weeks, but between me moving and your honeymoon, it's been a long time. It really has, like over a month. So great to have you back, man. Good to see you.
Yeah, missed you over here.
Missed you too, brother. I mean, Steve, I was getting the opportunity to do the elder abuse for once. And now I'm back in a position where you're doing it again as the old man on the show. So it was fun to do a little trading places for a while. Saw that you guys did a mock draft yesterday, so I think you're getting into the right space. You're like me. Dane Brugler's the beast dropped today, so we're really in the home stretch for this thing where I think all of us are starting to make some firm decisions on what we think the Chiefs should do, who we like. Are you getting there?
I'm getting there. I'm still waffling between a few players and situations. And let's be real. The reason why I'm not a mock draft guy traditionally is because anything that I do, it ain't going to happen. The second a trade happens, everything is off the table. I just can't wait for April 24th.
It is like millions of variables unraveling in real time. There's just no way you can accurately project it, but a lot of guys do pretty well. And I guess this is a good segue into our first segment. And that's going to be something we've never done before, but having done a few drafts at Arrowhead Addict, quite a few back in the day, but back as a podcast host, I felt comfortable maybe providing a 10 draft commandments. This isn't a set of rules. This is more a set of discoveries. So the Bible has the 10 commandments. Biggie Smalls had the 10 crack commandments. We have the 10 draft commandments. 10 guidelines that can help steer the Chiefs to having another banner draft class. I think they need to have one of those years. The last 2 years haven't been terrible, haven't been great. You're looking at those classes and you're saying, well, if it wasn't for Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy, we might be in trouble. So Veach was definitely on a heater for a while. Maybe that heater started with L'Jarius Sneed and ended with Jalen Watson. Is that fair to say that was the span of the Veach heater?
Yeah, the heater has now moved into a little bit of a cooler.
So, and that's fine. That's fine. That's going to happen. Nobody nails this all the time, but I think we believe Veach can get on another heater. And some of these guidelines could help. The first one, if you're ready to dive in, Sterling, is never get high on your own supply. This is going to sound familiar, but teams need to draft with humility, not hubris. No team ever has it figured out. You have your system, you have your convictions, but don't be too rigid or too arrogant. I think we've seen teams in the past, like the Seahawks, like the Saints, get a little high on their own supply. And sometimes what happens in those instances is a lot of times it's too much trading up because you have so much conviction. You think, you're at the poker table or the blackjack table, and you don't know when to walk away. You think you're just going to keep winning forever. So I just think that is the way to approach this entire thing. And that's going to loom over every other commandment on this list. Do you align with that overall principle?
Yeah, I mean, I think secondary has been one of those spots. The Chiefs have been great, but then I think last year they said, we'll just draft a 6th rounder and he'll make the team. He'll be good. Kamal Hadden. And he was released before the season even started. So again, I think there's always situations where you think we are phenomenal at the spot. I'm not saying the Chiefs aren't great at identifying secondary talent. They are. But I think at some point you think it's going to happen every single time. And the Chiefs didn't do the maybe investment they thought they should have, or maybe we thought they should have at the cornerback position. And because of that, they were forced to bring in a free agent in Christian Fulton. They would have had and hit on that Kamal Hadden pick, or maybe even drafted a guy earlier. You probably aren't paying whatever it was, $7.5 million a year, $10 million a year for Christian Fulton. So again, I think that even might be an example of this early on. You're not going to hit on every single thing, obviously, but I think that may have been a little bit of a, we'll just draft a guy in the 6th round, he'll make it, and we'll be fine, until it wasn't.
And it's fine to have a little bit of a heat check, as long as you know that the heat is eventually going to run out. The draft can just be a rude mistress. You think she's permanently at your bedside, and then one day she just leaves. So number 2, these are going to be a little bit more specific now. Only premium positions or blue chip prospects in round 1. So what does that mean? It means stick to pass rusher. And I don't care if it's edge or inside. A player like Chris Jones, to me, is equally valuable to someone like Myles Garrett. There's kind of an analog there. Receiver, corner, and tackle. Those, quarterback, of course, but that's off the table, hopefully until about 2040 for the Chiefs. So I think the exceptions to this rule would be grabbing a Kyle Hamilton, someone who is, I hate to use the word generational, but like borderline can't miss. There are no true can't miss prospects. Case in point, Kyle Pitts, right? But Sam Laporta was a favorite of this show, pounding the table for him 2 years ago. And I think a lot of people thought, tight end, it's a little too high. I think you either pick a premium position or someone who is, a true blue chip, a rare difference maker. And sticking to this rule would have steered the Chiefs away from CEH. Where do you fall on number 2?
I now disagree, I think.
Okay.
Because Kyle Pitts was the outlier, and then no, it turns out he was the liar. I think Detroit's done a really good job of not doing this and taking advantage of the market of, okay, we're going to go Jack Campbell and Brian Branch, and we're going to go with not DeAndre Swift,
Jahmyr
Gibbs, and
but isn't he a rare kind of blue chip special difference maker? He's a special player for that position.
Sam Laporta. They went tight end, running back, linebacker, safety. That is 4 non-premium positions, and all 4 have hit, because all 4 were probably the best at their given position. I used to only be blue chip guy until I realized, okay, I think the market has shifted so far that now you can get the best linebacker, the best safety, the best running so-and-so later on, where they would have been going top 10 years ago. Now the market shifted. If you're not a tackle, edge rusher, corner, wide receiver, quarterback, you're probably not going there. So I think actually, I think the market has shifted. So until the market shifts back, I think BPA. I don't care what position now.
Okay. Maybe this is a bit of semantics here, because I'm saying premium positions or a blue chip prospect at another position, like Sam Laporta or Jahmyr Gibbs. But I think you're saying it doesn't matter if they're a blue chip. If you're sitting there at 30 or 31 or whatever, and the best player available is a guard, you take what the board gives you.
Yeah. Would you rather have the guard that plays at a Pro Bowl level or Felix Anudike-Uzomah?
Would you rather have Sam Laporta
Sure.
or Felix Anudike-Uzomah? That's a head-to-head example. And the mention of FAU leads us to number 3. Buyer beware of defensive linemen in the 30 to 60 range. Just saying, I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm just saying buyer beware. This is the tweener zone. So they're not really first rounders, yet kind of too expensive for a dice roll. Yeah, Chris Jones hitting this range. So if you really have conviction on somebody and you have a good gut feeling, go with it. But what players fell in this range? The aforementioned FAU, Breland Speaks, and Tano Passanio. So 3 recent misfires for the Chiefs. FAU, the book is still out on to some extent. I think we know his ceiling has been lowered, right? At this point, I think we have to admit that he's not going to be a star. The best hope is that he's a late bloomer who becomes a starter. What do you think, Sterling, about drafting defensive linemen in this range, especially in a defensive lineman heavy draft?
Yeah, I don't have strong thoughts. I would have to do more research on outside of KC because that might be a KC issue. I get what you're saying as far as you're probably now getting toolsy guys, traits driven guys, or you're getting high floor guys. I don't know. I would have to do a little more research on this specific range for this specific type of player. But the Chiefs, for example, have not been good in this range. It's almost why I've said I've gone against the Chiefs trying to draft toolsy edge rushers, draft the floor guy, because the floor guys they've drafted have been good. Karlaftis and Mike Dana. The ceiling guys have not been good, so stop it. Whether that's identifying talent, just the way the NFL draft falls, unlucky, could be a multitude of situations, but results are results. So if you drafted a floor guy this round in the second to third, I think I'd be okay.
And this harkens back to Commandment 1, which is don't get high on your own supply, which means know thyself. If you're a team that struggles a little bit to identify defensive line talent or offensive tackle talent, like the Chiefs might do to some extent, maybe put in a little bit more work there. Maybe be a little bit more tentative to pick a guy you're on the fence about. So I think we're in alignment there. Number 4, respect the consensus mock draft board. This would seem kind of self-explanatory, but it really isn't to a lot of NFL franchises. So let's go back to 2019 when Mecole Hardman was 90th overall in the consensus mock draft board. Now, what is that database? It's something like 100 of the most respected draft prognosticators. It includes team mock drafts. There's a lot of input going in there. And collectively, they tend to do a tremendous job of identifying the range a player generally should be picked within. Now, Mecole Hardman was 90th in 2019 on this board. DK Metcalf was 21st overall. There's just no reason to reach like that and think you can drastically outsmart groupthink. There just isn't. This is free scouting that is available to you. And teams like the Patriots, teams like the Raiders have screwed themselves by ignoring consistency. They really have. Guys have lost jobs. They've become two of the bottom feeder franchises because of these kinds of tactics. So this is one of the most important ones. Where do you stand on the mock draft board?
Yeah, I think there's always going to be situations and scenarios. I mean, like Tariq Woolen was a 5th rounder, right? There's guys drafted, 4th round and on. If you hit on them, you're going to say, well, why weren't they higher? I get it. Understandable. But for the most part, I agree here. Especially it feels like earlier on in the draft, like the Mecole versus DK one was almost trying to prove a point. The Raiders, when they drafted Clelin Ferrell, was like 4th overall. It almost felt like they were trying to prove a point of like, no, we know more than everyone else. Maybe I'm wrong, and we know the Mecole situation was a little different, but I feel like they almost want to try and find that guy so they can be like, look what I did. No one else had him. I saw his potential. And again, you can get in trouble. You can get in trouble quick. Again, whether it's, 40 versus 30, okay, that's just a difference on where you have the guy. But like 100 versus 20, well, that's a massive gap, one that, quite frankly, should not happen.
The example I always think about this, along with Mecole Hardman, is Cole Strange. Cole Strange was an offensive lineman the Patriots picked, who probably wasn't going to be anything better than a 3rd rounder for anybody else. And they picked him 29th overall because they have such a slim board. I just think you want to be a little bit more disciplined to that and a little bit more humble. I think that's the way you have to say it. And why does something like this happen? That's a really good question. I think you made a great point as to this being much more important in the first day 1, day 2, after day 4, it's such a free for all. Who knows? But I think in the top 50 particularly, the group really knows who the guys are, right? So I just wouldn't stray too far from that consensus order. But why does this happen? I think it happens because of need, right? A hole you have on your roster. So number 5 is don't panic and overreact to a current perceived need. One huge advantage that the Chiefs have is Andy Reid, Brett Veach, and that entire brain trust has incredible job security. They know if they want to be here 10 years from now, they're gonna probably be here. Who else has that luxury? Very few franchises. So, I mean, we're talking guys that can think in 5-year increments instead of 1 or 2-year increments. That's like a half dozen franchises, right? You have to take advantage. So if there's a glaring best player available on the board, you take them at any position but quarterback, really. I mean, maybe not a center, but if you think that center can play guard, you do it. You got to punish the rest of the league's short-term thinking. Howie Roseman has made a living off of this time and time again. Sterling, you're a proponent of best player available. How important do you think it is to, even if you have a gaping hole in your roster, to not let that make you panic?
Well, yeah, and that was kind of why I went against the blue chip position. It's kind of because of this reason. Yeah, and it only works really if you have the job safety, the Brad Holmes of Detroit now, the obviously Brett Veach, the Howie Roseman. You have to have that because teams are going to continuously try and find the quarterback, and they're going to draft guys higher than they should because they need that guy. They need the game changer. They have to find that guy. If they don't, they're probably getting canned. When you have the job security, you can go BPA. Quite frankly, a team I go back to, which is an interesting one because they haven't had a lot of success, but I think that they've actually had the right thought process and it's worked out for them, is the Atlanta Falcons. Because I hated their past 2 drafts, quite frankly. I was like, Bijan Robinson, you just had Tyler Algier go over 1,000 yards. Why are you drafting this guy? And then all of a sudden you go, okay, this is different. Look at the 1-2 punch. They're using him as a receiver some. It really has worked out for them really well because on their board, Bijan Robinson was BPA. They didn't draft for positional value or need. They drafted BPA. For them, it was Bijan. They thought Michael Penix Jr. was BPA. This was an interesting one because at the time, everyone goes, this is so dumb. This is ridiculous. I can't believe the Falcons would draft a quarterback after doing this with Kirk Cousins. Well, Kirk Cousins' contract was basically only a 2-year deal to begin with. They said, we think Michael Penix Jr. is such a value, even a position that we think we might not need, it still makes sense to draft him. Well, now they just drafted their franchise looking like franchise quarterback. Now no one's making fun of them. That's the BPA method. Now you can also get it wrong. You can draft Kyle Pitts. Okay? It happens. I just think that the past couple drafts where we all thought and we just made fun of the Falcons for the first round draft picks, they've actually worked. So I don't know. They've almost switched my thought process with BPA. And then again, same thing with the Detroit Lions.
The Falcons' problem is they've had a really hard time drafting pass rushers.
Yeah.
But, you know, they've tried. I mean, I think their head is in the right place. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. Number 6, trading up is fine, but trade down just as often. You can't just trade up exclusively. So I totally get why the Chiefs would want to trade up in round 1. I'm actually a proponent of that. If they diagnose somebody that they think is still on the board in the 20s that has a true first round grade, because when you're drafting 29, 30, 31, 32 every year, that's a second round pick, guys. It really is. There's never going to be really a first round grade there. I mean, maybe there's a Sam Laporta available every once in a blue moon, but it gets harder and harder to select who those guys are. So I understand that because it's a de facto second round pick. So if you can go get Trent McDuffie, do it. But you just can't get arrogant and reckless like the Saints, where you just never trade down, because more bites at the apple is good. You know, if you admit that nobody knows anything to some extent, the more opportunities you give yourself, the more you're going to benefit. Look at the Baltimore Ravens. They are the kings of this. They give themselves ample ammunition every year. They game the comp formula. They're always trying to gobble up extra picks, and they're you know, it usually benefits them. And also, ex-Giants GM Dave Gettleman, he lost his job probably because he was a trade-up machine. And he became a punchline because he refused to trade down. So this seems pretty self-explanatory, but I think some teams have a hard time with what should be a cardinal rule.
Yeah, I would agree. Again, if you think the McDuffie's there, then do it. But even then, I don't want to say don't do it, but you can trade up and you end up with a guy that can help sink your ship. Because if you trade up, you're losing that draft pick. And if you miss on that draft pick, it makes that specific one even more important. I'm more of a proponent of trading back. I think a lot of people are when it comes to 31, 32. Issue is teams don't want to do it because they understand the same thought process. Yeah, you have the 5th-year option. Get that. Makes sense. Understood. But it never seems to be as valuable as it feels like maybe us in the media would think it would be. So takes 2 to tango. But yeah, generally speaking, I'm actually more team trade back than trade up.
All these guys that turn into superstars, it seems most of them never even make it to the 5th-year option. They never even approach that 5th-year option. So yeah. I think we're figuring out that having Justin Jefferson on a 5th-year option is meaningless. He's going to want a new contract and he's going to get a new contract. So I think also not all trade ups are equal. Trading up like a few spots to get Xavier Worthy, the cost for that, the opportunity cost for that isn't going to hurt you as bad as leapfrogging 10 or 12 spots. That's a little borderline out of reach. I will ask you really quick, where do you think the Chiefs' range is for trading up? Is it 24, 23, 22? Where is too aggressive for you?
This year, I think there's no trade up. I don't think there's one because they have, what is it, Liam? They have the no 4th, 5th, or 6th. What is it? Is it no 4th, 5th, or 6th this year? Chiefs draft picks. Give me 1 second.
They have an extra 4th next year that they could use as ammunition. So
yeah, this year, 2025, they have 1st, 2nd, 3rd from the L'Jarius Sneed trade, a 3rd, a 4th, and then they have 3 7ths.
2 comp picks.
Yeah, I don't want to see the Chiefs trade up because you have 1, 2, 3, 4, basically 5 picks. The 3 7th rounders, you're looking at UDFA type of guys, probably. I know Jalen Watson and Pacheco, you're not counting on those guys to be impact players. So you have 5 draft picks, really. If the Chiefs trade up, I would be probably not thrilled. That's kind of where I land. 2026, they have a 1st, 2nd, a 3rd, a 4th, and then the 6th was traded to the Patriots.
But they have the extra 4th for Tooney.
Yes. Still not a lot.
So using that this year could be an option. The only caveat here is that I've heard time and time again that trading up this year, this is speculation from like the draft industrial complex, but it's supposedly cheaper than it's ever been just because this draft class is not very well stocked when it comes to premium players. That's the perception. So it might be a little easier to get up than you think, but I agree with you. The Chiefs are already pretty thin on draft picks. Why did they have such a good draft class several years back when they picked McDuffie and Karlaftis and Chanel, and the list just goes on and on and on. They had a shitload of draft picks, right? That's why they did so well. They had a lot of opportunity, and now they're limiting their opportunity. Let's move on to number 7. Traits are great, but production is equally important. Be careful of telling yourself a story about why a player didn't produce in college. So if you look at Isaiah Bond and Xavier Worthy, at first glance, they're kind of similar. Same position, archetype, school, height, similar testing. But Bond had a 40th percentile target share, and Worthy had an 84th percentile target share. Bond never officially broke out. Worthy broke out when he was like 19 years old, very young. So I think there's projecting, which is fine. And then there's overprojecting, where you're just kind of inventing a story, wishful thinking. this is difficult because sometimes in college there's systems. I'm thinking about Shamar Stewart this year. I'm thinking about Trayvon Walker in the past. Guys who play in college systems, even Xavier Worthy to some extent, who aren't asked to do things that they will have to do in the pros. So you just don't know. You don't know how things will translate. How much projecting things you haven't seen is okay, and where does that go too far?
Yeah, I don't like it, really. You know my thoughts. I think it's silly. I think you're trying to talk yourself into stuff, especially in football. Of almost any other sport, I think football is the one where give me a guy who's done it versus a guy who projects to do it. NBA is different because a lot of times in college, for example, guys are really raw, and guys really don't get that sort of polish until they turn maybe 22, 21, 22. And these guys are 18-year-olds going up against now in college basketball, sometimes 24-year-olds, right? So, like, they're just not polished. So for that reason, I think NBA is so different than in college basketball than NFL and projections. Like Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, you could see, but he was raw at Kentucky going up against 22-year-olds. He was 18. Like, yeah, it's going to be difficult. It's different. College, football, at least speaking, these guys are coming out after the junior year at a minimum. They've been there, and they're going to be probably 21. Yeah, there's a couple of 20-year-olds, but almost always 21, 22. They should have shown you something. They should have shown what they can do. That's where I'm at. I've almost always been in that camp. Just football for me, I got to see it first. I understand some projection. I get that. But it's not like these guys are – you're projecting in the NFL, you're saying these guys now have to do it against NFL caliber players, not against, like Western Michigan. Now you got to do it against NFL players every single week. College guys, if you couldn't get it done against Monmouth, sorry. I don't even think they have a football team. They don't have basketball. Point remains, Delaware – why couldn't you?
Hey, take it easy on the alma mater of one Brett Veach and one Matt Nagy, correct? The Fighting Blue Hens of Delaware. There's actually
Joe Flacco.
Yeah, and there's a player in this draft, Marcus Yarns, that I like quite a bit. So I will say I lost my train of thought. The Chiefs, here we go. If you're going to project, make the player younger. If a guy's 20 years old, it's a little easier to tell yourself that story of why it hasn't happened yet than if he's a 23-year-old full-grown man. There's just a big difference. So I think Kingsley Suamataia, who was too young to buy a drink last year, that makes a little bit more sense than a guy that's 24.
It was why I like, good point, why I like Kingsley Suamataia. It was why I liked FAU over a guy like Boye Mafe. It's why I like Carl Loftus over a guy like Boye Mafe. Carl Loftus was younger than Boye Mafe, and Boye Mafe was the untapped potential guy. Boye Mafe is now 26 years old already. Carl Loftus has done it, been there, and won rings. So
one rings, baby. Yeah, sometimes the narrative takes hold and it just feels wrong, but it takes hold anyways. Number 8, don't force a square peg into a round hole. I think most teams and draft nicks thought Darren Kennard was a guard several years back. The Chiefs disagreed and things went south quickly. I think it's okay to disagree, but you have to be really selective and judicious about doing this. Sky Moore had never returned punts before, yet did as a rookie. That's kind of a big yikes. I think thinking outside the box is fine. Just don't get way out there. This dovetails nicely with your point of, I like to have seen them done it. They need to do it in college. There needs to be some evidence that they can do that they have this attribute or skill. You're not just imagining it because of the underwear Olympics or whatever.
Yeah, 100%. Agreed.
Number 9, never fear trading with another team. Now, I know people have ridiculed teams trading with the Chiefs, but I don't think you should be afraid of dealing with another franchise because they're a contender. At the end of the day, does a deal make your franchise better or better positioned? That should be all that matters, because if you do that continuously over and over and over again, one trade with a contender or a team that's better than you isn't going to sink you. It isn't going to change the face of the league. Probably. And I think if the answer is yes to that question, you pull the trigger. The Chiefs trading up with the Bills, maybe their biggest rival in the AFC. I think probably their biggest rival in the AFC. For Xavier Worthy, worked out. They handed Buffalo extra ammunition, but they didn't care because they believed in what they were doing. The Chiefs trading the Ravens picks for Orlando Brown Jr., that also worked out. It was kind of a short-term 2-year rental, but for the price, I think it was a good move. It led to a Super Bowl. It led to probably the best tackle play Patrick Mahomes has seen since Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz left the roster. How do you feel about trading with other contenders and also teams that are afraid to trade with the Chiefs?
I think it's silly. I think you should. Your thoughts as well. Like, if it makes your team better, why wouldn't you do it? Why would you care so much about what another team does that you're scared to trade with them? I get it's not worked out for the Bills, but I don't know, man. I will never understand that. Like, I get it. We've been screwed a couple times by the Chiefs, but you got to trust yourself. If you're Bean, you got to say, hey, no, I get maybe these didn't go quite the way we thought, but we think we can get them next time. I don't know, man. Like, the Ravens don't care, it feels like. The Ravens will trade with anyone. The Ravens just, if it makes our team better, we're doing it. We're making the move happen. Like when the Steelers last year was reported like they didn't want to trade with the Chiefs. What? What are you talking about? You, at worst, or at best, you're probably going to face them if you think you're that good. The AFC Championship game. Like you're that scared like about making potentially your team better? I don't get it. I just won't get it.
The audacity of the Steelers to think they were actually in contention to that degree. The Ravens, the Bills, the 49ers, the teams that are actual perennial contenders, they seem to adopt the same strategy. And it's funny that it's the teams that are kind of pretenders, not real contenders, that kind of subscribe to, hey, you got to be careful who you're trading with, right?
Well, when it comes down to, then you seem scared. You're actually putting the other team on a pedestal saying they're better than us. That they're a better GM, that they're going to get us over yet again, and you come off scared, you come off weak, and you're basically admitting that they are better than you and will one-up you. That's what you say if you say, I'm not trading with this team because they're a contender, because you're scared. Soft. So Bills, trade with KC.
You're basically calling Brett Veach a wolf in the henhouse, right? So, and real sliding doors moment for Deontay Johnson. Where is his career at right now if he joins the Chiefs instead of the Carolina Panthers? If he comes into the Chiefs culture and actually, you think he was just already mentally checked out?
Dog, he did with the Ravens and the Texans. Those are playoff teams.
That was post Carolina, maybe he lost his mind down there in the dirty South. I don't know. Just theorizing. I'm kind of a Deontay Johnson apologist. You've traditionally been one as well. So I expected you to be on the same page, but that's how far Deontay Johnson has sunk, where even you are like, dog, I'm out.
Yes.
Number 10, the last commandment here, be ready to throw the plan out the window. Every draft is a nonstop barrage of unexpected curveballs. It never goes how we expect or how we hope it will. So I say pivot, don't panic. Like Bruce Lee says, be like water. You cannot be rigid. You cannot force a suboptimal draft strategy when the board doesn't go your way. You can do a billion simulations, but on draft night, Michael Penix is going to go 12th overall or whatever, or 8th overall, and Bo Nix is going to go 12th overall, whatever the hell it was, and throw the entire board, throw the entire equilibrium out of whack. You have to be ready for that, and you have to be ready to take whatever value the weekend gives you. So that is my final commandment. Where do you stand with that and just this overall list of guidelines?
Yeah, I like it for the most part. I think it's a good list. I think it's a good jumping off point. I think it's one that would behoove more teams to follow, especially teams that are stuck in the cellar.
It's really just years of observations of what has worked and what doesn't. And it's just sort of principles to check you from yourself based on historical trends. So there we go. Let's move on to our next segment. And this is going to be part one of a two-part series. And that's the inaugural All-Wacky Team. Now, what is the All-Wacky Team? It's exciting players who, for some reason or another, are being a bit overlooked. Kind of funky players I see surplus value in. I'm going to throw these players out, and I'm really eager to hear if Sterling, you're excited by them, if you agree, if you think, whoa, you're kind of going against your own 10 commandments here, buddy. So let's dive in if you're ready.
Let's do it.
The first one, maybe my favorite player to watch on tape this year, and that's Andrew Makuba, free safety from Texas. My comp for him is not a human being. It's a heat-seeking missile. So he has incredible instincts, impressive play speed. I think he has the center fielder ball skills that the Chiefs were kind of lacking last year. 18 passes defended in his last 26 games, 5 INTs last year. He's aggressive downhill as well, extremely disciplined, doesn't get penalties. I just really love this kid. So why is he being undervalued? Well, he weighs 186 pounds. I really think that paired with how he plays like his hair is on fire has maybe scared some teams off a little bit. He also played out of position for a few years at Clemson. He was like a freshman All-American, played, I guess, kind of like nickel for a few years, and then transferred. He's originally from Austin. He transfers back to Texas, is awesome as a senior. So I think he would just be a perfect fit long-term next to Jaden Hicks and Shamari Connor. I think Brian Cook is probably on his way out. Is that safe to say?
Yeah.
So go ahead.
No, I'd agree. I just think that way you would have your actual Mike Edwards replacement. You know, that's why there's a whole joke I made of the past 3 weeks. Basically, I've said, are the Chiefs, anytime I was asked that, the Chiefs can make another move, I said they're going to get a Mike Edwards type of safety. And then it turns out it was actually Mike Edwards. Like, that's the way they ended up going. I thought it was very funny. I was like, very apt. Nailed it. But I don't think they want to. I think they want to try and go younger and more cost controlled. And there was just no one that they really liked. And so they brought back Mike Edwards. This is 100% cool. I'm fine with that. It makes a lot of sense. This could fill that role. You can be a little smaller if you are that center fielder type of player, not in the box. You already have a lot of those guys currently on the roster with Jaden Hicks and Shamari Connor. You have the potential to potentially play in the slot, potentially, if you need to go that route. But yeah, I think this could be the potential long-term free safety, Mike Edwards type of replacement.
I think Mike Edwards, great call, by the way, was a savvy move. This room has a lot of potential currently, but it also isn't quite there. So adding a little bit of experience and then adding somebody who actually fits what they currently lack, if the board falls that way, would be smart.
Yeah.
Number 2, and that's this is a really divisive, polarizing prospect. And I've kind of I was super high on him. Then I got rocked a little bit. You know, my faith in him kind of took a dive. And now I'm kind of back on board. Harold Fannin Jr., the tight end from Bowling Green. What is my comp for him? My comp for him is my dog Karma. She has the weirdest, most awkward poop dance that she does. She's very long and athletic, and she moves around, and you're like, how does this work? She just makes it work. She does it every time she goes number 2. It's never the same. It always looks kind of funky, but it works for her. And he's the same kind of player, only 20 years old. And he was a recently converted safety. So if you think about how long he's actually been a tight end, not very long at all. Insane production, 117 catches for over 1,500 yards, which is just unreal for a college tight end. You think about a lot of college tight ends that have gone like the tight end factory of Iowa. They come nowhere near these numbers, nowhere near. He's a run after the catch king, which I think would be a pretty custom fit for this Kansas City offense. Sticky hands. He snags everything in his radius. If you say, well, he went to Bowling Green, I'm worried about the level of competition. If you look at the Penn State and Texas A&M games, he had over 135 yards in each of those tilts. Versatile chess piece. And I envision a role similar to Jono Smith last year, where they're just a lot of short targets. Let this guy manufacture things after he gets the ball, because he is very like Rashee Rice, at a different position, but similar. He's very fluid, hauling the ball in and turning upfield and making things happen. So why is such an exciting player and productive player being undervalued? Because he's weird. I don't know how else to say it. He's weird. You hear Dane Brugler talk about him. He says he's duck-footed. A lot of guys call him stiff, even if he is athletic. And then you see his blazing 3-cone. He had like a sub 7-second 3-cone, which is like top 3 among tight ends. So the athleticism is there, and he rumbles down the field and makes things happen, but it just looks weird. Have you ever seen Moneyball?
Yeah.
You know, when Jonah Hill's talking about Chad Bradford, who the pitcher that throws underhand, and he's like, he throws funny, so nobody wants him. But they're like, who cares? That's how I feel about Harold Fannin Jr. You know who else? I'm not saying he's this guy, but you know who else looks very athletic and awkward at the same time when he runs? Travis Kelce. You know, like a little
every
unorthodox.
tight end. Rob Gronkowski.
Yeah. And his frame is a little bit small. That's probably the thing that worries me the most. But I think every year there's players that there are too much steam. They get too much steam behind them and everyone gets excited. And then something comes out like their combine isn't quite as good as everyone hopes. And then there's an overreaction. I think we're overreacting and bumping him too far down. He's still a top 100 player. And if the Chiefs picked him at 95, I would be thrilled. I think he'd fit into their offense.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
Number 3, Bracial Tootin. Now, this is an all-time name. I mean, it may not be DiCaprio Boodle, but it is up there. Bracial Tootin, running back from Virginia. My comp for him is, do you have a Roomba? Have you ever had a Roomba?
I know what they are. I don't own one, but
you know how they just kind of zoom around and do their own thing and just, have a mind of their own. My comp for him is a Roomba on rocket boosters because he is short, stocky, explosive, and dynamic, and just kind of always tries to bounce everything outside. He made Bruce Feldman's freaks list. He's reached a max velocity of 23.15 miles per hour. He's a screen game gem. Now, in an Andy Reid offense, that is very, very important for a running back of this style, like a change-up running back. 0 drops in 2024. I think he's got a little room to grow in pass pro, but the willingness is there, and that's the willingness and the recognition are there, and I think that's the prerequisites you need to become good in pass pro. I think he's being undervalued for a few reasons. Not amazing in between the tackles, and he's had 9 fumbles. So ball security issue. But if you can clean that up, this guy in the Jerick McKinnon role, I'm really feeling it. Just really quickly, not just on him. I want to hear where you're at on this running back class, especially the local kids at KU, at K-State, and Neal and Giddens.
Yeah, I want one of those 2 guys. I would love Devin Neal in the 4th round. That'd be my dream. I think Devin Neal makes a lot of sense. He also fits what the Chiefs go after. Tootin ran a 4.3, explosive, but it's kind of an Isaiah Pacheco 4.3, where I don't know how much is going to show up in the game tape, especially in the NFL. He kind of is physical like Isaiah Pacheco as well, which can lead to injuries. I think Devin Neal makes the most sense. Devin Neal is in between what Kareem Hunt was when he was drafted and what Kareem Hunt is now. Devin Neal is a guy with good vision. He's physical. Maybe not the most explosive guy in the world, but I think can play a 3-down role. I like Devin Neal. That's the way I'm going. If they had, I'm cool with DJ Giddens too, by the way. I just think Devin Neal is actually what the Chiefs would do. Not even what I just want. I would like Devin Neal. From a Mizzou guy, I would like Devin Neal in KC. But I also think it fits what the Chiefs traditionally go after in a running back as well. So to me, it's Devin Neal. That's the guy I'm tabbing.
I am in agreement with you that I think that's what the Chiefs might do. Last year, they seemed to not care about having an explosive guy in their backfield when they went with Carson Steele, Samaje Perine, Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt really wasn't part of the plan, but became part of the plan. And Isaiah Pacheco. Isaiah Pacheco has that 4.37 speed you talked about, but I think with Tootin, he actually can house it, and that's why I prefer DJ Giddens to Devin Neal. I feel like the home run hitting ability is a little better. And I also think the Chiefs are going to be stubborn and continue riding with on first down and second down and short yardage, Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt. I just don't think they're going to go away. Andy Reid, trust those guys. So I think what they really want to look for is a change-up pitch. And the good news about this draft, I mentioned Marcus Yarns before from Delaware, Raheem Rocket Sanders, even Taj Brooks from Texas Tech. The list goes on and on. I think on day 3, there are going to be these kind of change-up pitch, satellite back, third down types available to the Chiefs. I would compare it to a game of musical chairs where there are only so many teams that need running backs, and there are more good running backs in this class than there are spots. So either you get one of the good ones early and you take advantage of the upside of the top of this class, or you wait it out and see who falls to you. I'm kind of in camp wait it out, but we'll see what the Chiefs do.
I would also be okay with Cam Scatterbo. Also not explosive, but can obviously be a pass catcher, do everything. Imagine CH if he stayed healthy. A useful player.
I have kind of been softening on my 40 time for running backs, kind of my feelings around that, because if you look at someone like Isaiah Pacheco, he had the best 40 time in his class, I think just outright, but especially size adjusted. He was faster than Kenneth Walker. He was faster than Breece Hall. I mean, he definitely isn't more explosive than Kenneth Walker, who either gets a 2-yard loss or a 40-yard run. But if you look at guys like Bucky Irvin, like Kyron Williams, there are other traits that running backs can have other than track speed that can translate into big gains. I think both those guys are capable of generating chunk gains, and they're not really doing it with track speed. So food for thought there. Number 4 on my all-wacky team is, I hope I get this right, Ariante Ursary, left tackle from Minnesota. My comp for him is a vending machine that does yoga. So he is another Freaks List alum. I think he was 25th on Bruce Feldman's Freaks List. And what happens with that list is in August every year, Bruce Feldman, who is a legend covering college football, he basically surveys the entire college football scene for about the 100 best athletes, the 100 freakiest athletes. And this guy as a left tackle was one of them. His relative athletic score after the combine, that holds up, 9.89. He hits the length thresholds that the Chiefs have. They like guys to be either over 34 inches in terms of their arm length or close. And what I like about him, one of the things was that he was the 77th tackle prospect in high school. And he has molded himself into something great. To me, that shows work ethic. That shows motor. That shows commitment. He did have a minor down year as a senior, but his previous year, he was second among all FBS tackles in PFF run blocking grade. And in a big game against Ohio State and their monster edges, he only allowed 1 pressure. And here's maybe the best part. He started 38 consecutive games at left tackle. You got to have a guy. We've seen this with Lucas Niang and some even Wanye Morris a little bit last year, Donovan Smith, just some of the tackles they brought in, some of the offensive linemen they brought in can't stay on the damn field. You have to have that. So why is he being overlooked? Because he can be a bit sloppy, and I think his pad level is high. And I think his senior year, he didn't build the dominant year that you would have hoped. But I really like this kid. I'd love to see the Chiefs take a chance on him. I know a lot of people are screaming, not another developmental tackle. But I say keep throwing darts at the board. One of them is going to hit. Where do you stand on the tackle position overall? Give me your comments on Ursary, but if there's anybody else you like that would make your all-wacky team at tackle, feel free to throw them out.
Yeah, out. I'm done with the projects. Hey, because this is a second-round project. This is the guy you're taking the second. I'm out on that. I'm done. Over it. Out. Stop it. Stop it. Because is Andy Heck still the offensive line coach?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see
Okay.
it going anywhere. He's been here since 2013. He's here as long as the other Andy's here. Andy Heck is here too.
Will the Chiefs give him a full season to develop if he struggles? The answer is no. So what are we doing? Why would you draft the guy? Because if he's not good at game 1, game 2, game 3, he's benched. And then you're sitting in the exact same situation you're at. I don't have an issue because Kingsley Sumatia might be good. Wanye Morris might be good. But you can't play him because you can't play him that young because the Chiefs are win now mode. They played for the Giants. They played for the Panthers. It wouldn't matter. Play them all you want. They'll develop. They'll get better. You got to have a guy game 1 who's able to protect Patrick. Another developmental prospect in the second round is not the way the Chiefs are going to get better. They're drafting another guy who's going to play 2 games and say, okay, he's not ready yet. Now he's stashed on the bench, never to be seen from again, unless there's an injury. That's what happens. That's what happens. Yeah. Again, I'm not complaining because that means the Chiefs are winning. If the Chiefs are winning, that means they don't have time to let these raw prospects develop. It's a decent problem to have.
But you look at their strategy with wide receivers and how they use the regular season as an extended training camp. I just don't know what. I'm kind of figuring it out in my own head. Why they don't have time to kind of figure this out on the fly is because they have a $1 billion quarterback who they're putting at risk. So I think that is the bigger issue here than any impatience or this is going to keep us from winning 1 game in the regular season. It's just protecting Patrick, protecting his psyche, keeping him in rhythm and all of that. And one could argue that they just, these guys outside of round 1 tackles aren't supposed to hit, but there have been enough chances. And I talked to my dad about this last week. When was one time Andy Reid and Andy Heck have drafted and developed an offensive tackle who either hit expectations or exceeded expectations during their entire tenure, their 12-year tenure in Kansas City? I don't think there's one occasion.
Yeah, it's been tough.
So know thyself. Maybe this isn't the way to go, but I do like the kid. If they're going to go with a tackle, I would prefer that. I don't like the guys in the first round. I would prefer for them to wait, but maybe you're right. Maybe they should just skip it altogether and continue to look for veterans here. My last guy this week, we're going to do 5 this week, 5 next week, is Jordan Birch, the edge from Oregon. My comp here is Thanos. Who doesn't know he's Thanos yet? He is 10th overall on Bruce Feldman's freaks list. He hit almost 21 miles per hour GPS at 6'4", 280. He once had I don't know if you've seen this play. If you guys haven't, you should get right here on YouTube and search for this. He had a 36-yard fake punt run as an edge, and he looked awesome doing it. It was incredible. Great length, squats almost 700 pounds. And I think this is both his biggest strength and his biggest weakness. He wins with insane power. And that's kind of, I think, because he's been able to get away with it. That's kind of been his entire repertoire, right? But he has the athletic traits to develop into much more. I think he started to flourish after transferring from South Carolina. And he has that outside inside versatility. Think Charles Omenihu, that Steve Spagnuolo and the Chiefs defensive staff, they kind of covet that, right? So why is he undervalued? He will be 24. Is that too old for Brett Veach? We shall see. He battled injuries his first 3 years, and I don't think he's developed. He's a pitcher that just kind of has one pitch right now because he can get away with it, but he can develop more. I don't know if he will, but the athletic tools are there. I think this is a first-round talent that will be available on day 2. And I know I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth because there is that guideline, there is that command that 31 to 60 for defensive linemen is kind of the danger zone, but he's very intriguing because every time I see a mock draft, I'm like, why isn't Jordan Birch going earlier?
Well, it's not 60, it's 63.
Okay, well.
Technicality.
Well, there you go. That would work out. Want to hear your thoughts on him if you've gotten the chance to look at him at all. And really, defensive linemen, edges, this entire class? Is there a guy or two that you have your eyes on? I know you've been mock drafting, so.
Yeah, he's interesting because he fits what Spags would like inside out. 8.5 sacks in 10 games last year. The injury concerns are obviously going to be a question, but the production at Oregon has been there. Again, it comes down to, okay, can he develop another move? I like your thought process of it's maybe a guy who has a great fastball, but that's all he has. Eventually, you get to the majors. Well, everyone's seen 101. They can hit 101. If that's all you have. You might be a phenomenal, pass rusher with your one move. But if that's all you have, tackles have seen that before. They're going to stop you. So I think that's what it comes down to. I would like that in the second round, though. I think it'd be very, very intriguing. Kenneth Grant is a guy I've really liked from Michigan. If he falls to 31, Kenneth Grant, interior defensive lineman from Michigan. That's probably the way I'd roll. That, again, not an edge guy, but a defensive tackle that I think makes a ton of sense for KC.
Okay. There are other guys I like. I like the kid out of Ole Miss, Nolan. I like Burge's teammate Harmon out of Oregon. I tried with this list, and I'm going to continue to select guys who aren't really first round eligible, who just aren't going to go in the first 32 picks. I think that's a little bit more intriguing than just, this is the same guy that everybody else likes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Tyler Warren or whatever. So there we go. That is the first installment. Next week, we will have 5 more players. We're talking about having inviting some other best family members on the show for a mock draft. We'll see if that happens, but that's the rumor anyway. Sterling, let's get us out of here. But before we go, what's spinning, man? What are you listening to?
Queensryche. Just listen to more Queensryche yet again. Operation Mindcrime album. Just so damn good.
What's that song? Lucidity, right?
Silent Lucidity. One of my least favorite songs by them.
Oh, come on, man. That was a ballad. That was a banger. I'm dating myself here because that really used to come on. I remember that video. It used to come on MTV quite a bit. A little bit of a cheese factor, but fond memories of that one. For me, I'm going to go with Spill the Wine by Eric Burdon and War. I'm usually a big fan of Eric Burdon's first band, The Animals, but he teamed up with the funk band War, and that didn't produce a lot of great music, but this song is just a trip. I don't even know how to explain it. You've all probably heard it. It's the storytelling. It's very cinematic. It's very big. It's fun, and it's one of those things you can put on repeat and will put you in a good mood. I'm really fond of songs that will kind of change the complexion of your day, just kind of like like Audible Prozac or something like that. So that fits that mold. So check out Queensryche and Spill the Wine. All right, guys, thanks to the chat. You guys always bring it. Couldn't do this without you. If you dig Arrowhead Addict, here are some ways you can help us continue to grow. First off, subscribe here on YouTube. You're definitely going to want to do that because come draft night, we are going to go live and have just a ton of coverage with the entire gang. So come hang out with us on draft night. It's going to be a lot of fun. Last year, it was a lot of fun. Sterling, I think you're probably going to be around. I'm probably going to be around for most of the night. Patrick Allen, I think will make an appearance. Price Carter is going to be Mel Kipering it up, bringing it all night. I know he is chomping at the bit and probably more ready than just about anybody to. I think he said he's got full breakdowns of 80 players that could possibly go in the first round, already ready to go. So there you have it. If you're an audio listener on either Spotify or Apple, please consider giving us a 5-star review. That really helps Sterling. That really helps myself. It helps the entire gang. And if you're doing that on Apple, consider leaving a question because we will answer that on Thursdays, the OG Hour, with either Patrick Allen and myself or Patrick Allen and Matt Verderam. Lastly, check out the mothership. Matt Connor always has his team doing great things over on arrowheadaddict.com. Great place to start your morning coffee round so you stay in the know with Chiefs Kingdom. Join us live next Wednesday at 5 p.m. Central right here on the Arrowhead Addict channel. Until then, go Chiefs.